TaxAct understands you haven't memorized the tax code. That's why TaxAct has live experts to help. TaxAct can even do it for you if you prefer. It's the easiest way to know you're doing it right. Well, other than going back to college and obtaining a bachelor's degree in accounting with a minor in finance, then interning somewhere and becoming fluent in all tax forms. But that might be hard to accomplish before tax day. So maybe just stick with TaxAct. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, but not such a great day for the Congress of the United States. Why not? Because we now have 66 members of the U.S. Congress who have announced that they will not be seeking re-election in 2026. Some of them because they're actually running for different offices. Some are running for the Senate. Some are running for other statewide offices. But the fact is that people who have been serving in Congress, including people who have been serving there for a long time, are walking away. And that's particularly true for Republicans who control both houses of Congress, at least until the midterm elections coming up. And speaking of elections, the votes are in, and I don't think there is going to be a lot of debate about the actual final outcome. In a real nail-biter, Kim Jong-un in North Korea won re-election. And he won re-election with 99.93% of the votes in North Korea. The remaining 0.07%, the ones who did not vote for Kim Jong-un, they probably are in trouble, but it's unclear who they actually voted for. The election chooses members of the 15th Supreme People's Assembly. It saw candidates backed by the ruling establishment winning every single seat. So that's called a landslide. Do they permit mail-in voting? You know, frankly, I don't know. But I'm surprised that President Trump hasn't commented yet about how smoothly the North Korean election went. Meanwhile, speaking of things going smoothly, remember Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, the controversial senator who had a confrontation yesterday with Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky. Mark Wayne Mullen has been nominated by President Trump as the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. It turns out he made it through committee because there was one Democrat who broke ranks with the rest of the Democrats in the U.S. Senate and voted for Mark Wayne Mullen. Who did that and got him on an 8-7 vote to get to a full Senate vote, which is going to be coming up. The opposition to Mark Wayne Mullen in the committee, and that is the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. The chair of that committee is Rand Paul, and Rand Paul felt wounded by the fact that Mark Wayne Mullen had said several years ago, when Rand Paul was attacked by a neighbor in a dispute over dead leaves on their two properties together in Kentucky, he had said that he could understand why someone would want to attack Senator Rand Paul from behind and to break his ribs and to send him into the hospital and to cause some serious, maybe even lifetime health problems. No, you weren't going to be getting a vote from Rand Paul. But where did that vote come from? We will get to that coming up on the Medved Show. And meanwhile, there is more going on from the Hill. They are reporting that the FBI is now investigating Joe Kent, who resigned earlier this week as director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He was a twice defeated candidate for Congress here in the state of Washington, in southwestern Washington. But Joe Kent now resigned as the National Counterterrorism Center. He is being investigated by the FBI over an alleged leak of classified information. News Nation has reported. The probe was underway before Kent resigned in protest to the Iran war. That's what a source told the outlet concerning this report. Senate Republicans defeated also a Democratic-sponsored motion to advance a war powers resolution to pause Trump's strikes against Iran. The Senate knocked down the motion mostly along party lines. And Democrats stormed out of a closed-door briefing that Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche gave on the Jeffrey Epstein files. They vowed to enforce a subpoena that has been issued for Bondi to testify on the documents. She's not eager to testify. There was also some further reaction to Joe Kent, who had resigned because of his opposition to the Iran war. Another fellow Republican, Don Bacon, who's a former general in our military, he represents a swing district, believe it or not, in Nebraska. He yesterday blasted Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, for resigning over the war in Iran. Good riddance, he said. Iran has murdered more than 1,000 Americans. Their EFP landmines were the deadliest in Iraq. He says that after some military experience. Congressman Bacon wrote this Tuesday in a post on X. And there is also this from the Wall Street Journal. They are reporting that Russia is expanding efforts to provide the Iranian military with intelligence and military cooperation in its fight against the U.S. and Israel, including the provision of upgraded drone components and the locations of the U.S. military and allied forces in the region. Some intelligence agencies are believed to have aided Iranian strikes on U.S. radar installations. Nothing provided to Iran by any other country is affecting our operational success, said a spokesman for the Trump White House named Olivia Wales. In Iran, the Israeli Air Force yesterday attacked an Iranian natural gas processing site, the first time Iranian natural gas facilities have been hit by the Israel Defense Forces. The White House had previously objected to earlier Israeli strikes on Iranian oil facilities. The U.S. confirmed that the strike had been carried out in coordination with U.S. forces, and there is more about the Israel-U.S. partnership, a piece by Brett Stevens that's very important, that suggests that, no, we're not fighting a war for Israel, but we are fighting a vote with Israel. How do we know the difference? And how do we know the difference in the position of Cesar Chavez? He died a long time ago in 1993. But that civil rights hero, that icon for a lot of people, progressives in particular in America, is now accused of having abused young women, including little girls, for years. We'll be speaking about that with a syndicated columnist and podcaster, Ruben Navarrete, who grew up in a household where there was great respect for Cesar Chavez. Will he lose that respect in light of these revelations, which made front page coverage in most of the newspapers in the country? We will get to that, talking to Ruben Navarrete coming up. He is the podcaster star of a podcast called Ruben in the Center and a syndicated columnist with Substack.
Sign up today for our free weekly newsletter at michaelmedved.com.
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
And on the Michael Medved Show, there is a truly shocking story that made a big front page headline on the New York Times. And it's a story about an American hero, a hero named Cesar Chavez, who died in 1993. But it turns out there are new revelations about some terrible behavior on his part involving very young girls, girls as young, according to some of these reports, as 12. And to talk about this, somebody who knows a great deal about Cesar Chavez, certainly grew up in a period where he was widely admired, Ruben Navarrete, who is a syndicated columnist nationally, a podcaster, the host of Ruben in the Center. You can find his work at navarretenation.substack.com. And first, before we begin our conversation, remember to subscribe to our burgeoning YouTube channel. Michael Medved Official is how you reach it, and it's free to subscribe. Ruben, had you had any inkling at all before the last few days that Cesar Chavez had these charges against him of misbehavior with young girls?
I did not. I've got a mixed answer for you, Michael. I did not have any specific knowledge about a couple of the shocking revelations that came through in this New York Times story. But having said that, I'm not surprised by these developments, given what I know about Chavez and what was already known. And let me explain both of those. The shocking revelations here was not just that Cesar Chavez is accused of taking advantage of his position to rape young girls, and including an older woman at the time, 36-year-old Dolores Huerta, who was his second in command, the vice president of the United Farm Workers. And Huerta came forward with a statement this week saying that she had 2 sexual encounters with Chavez. That's the way she phrased them. It's clear that both of those definitions meet rape. And she claims that children were produced from these encounters and they were put up for adoption. And so, Michael, you and I were living in a world where there were these 2 kids floating around whose daddy was Cesar Chavez and whose mom was Dolores Huerta. And that is mind-boggling. But when I say that I wasn't surprised, I had personal dealings with Chavez over the years, most famously in 1989 at Harvard when he came to speak, and I confronted him with the spotty record of the UFW. And I saw in someone who pushed back against me, someone who did not take criticism well, who was not used to being told no, who was not used to being given bad news by the people around him. The people around him included Kennedys. Some of the children of Robert Kennedy were there. Kerry Kennedy afterward got in my face and, took it up with me. I'm being challenged by the daughter of my local hero, Robert Kennedy Sr., and this is a heady experience. And I and others were being told and have been told for years that essentially gaslighting us, saying, you're not seeing what you're seeing. There's nothing to see here. This guy's a saint. This guy's a deity. And it was clear to me that he wasn't.
Well, the LA Times is reporting today that there is a push to strip Cesar Chavez's name from streets, from buildings, from holidays. His birthday, which is, I think, coming up March 31st,
Correct.
is as a federally recognized holiday thanks to Barack Obama. Do you think the future of that holiday is in jeopardy?
Yes, I do. And I think that there's going to be a movement, Michael, to change that to Farm Worker Day, National Farm Worker Day. You have to keep in mind, my friend, that there are 5 entities here. There's Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, the personalities. There's the UFW, the union that was founded in 1962 to advocate for farm workers. There's the movement of farm worker rights and dignity. There's the farm workers themselves, and then there's the people who support all of the above. 5 different entities. And I think that the move right now, Michael, is to somehow try to decouple those entities and somehow break off Cesar Chavez from the UFW and from the farm workers. To my response is good luck with that. I have written about this organization and these people for 37 years. They do not come apart easily. They have been intertwined for so long. Chavez was synonymous with the UFW. The UFW was synonymous with the farm workers. Michael, it's going to be very difficult for people to untangle all this.
Okay, are there people so far who have come up and saying these allegations are false, there's no basis for them? I mean, when Dolores Huerta actually says they produced children, that's kind of tough to say that is just fabricated, isn't it?
It is tough to say that, but we have been around the block, you and me, for a long time, and we know that people can be convinced of just about anything. If you were a supporter of Bill Clinton back in the day, you had concocted this narrative that all the women had lied. There were all these women saying things, and they were all liars. And now if you're a supporter of Donald Trump and you're part of MAGA and you voted for the guy for three times, you want to somehow convince yourself that, all those mentions of him in the Epstein files, perfectly innocent. It is not the case that Donald Trump had sex with underage girls that were trafficked to him by Jeffrey Epstein. You can convince yourself of just about anything if you want to. And that's right, left, and center. And clearly today, there are some people out there who are so distraught by this, Mexican Americans in particular. They're looking for ways to blame Huerta, to strike out against her, to say that, why did you wait so long? You're 96 years old. This alleged assault took place, one of them, 60 years ago. And I think that I'm sympathetic to people who say you need to back off of that. What we know about sexual assault and survivors, these people can come forward when they want to on their own terms or not at all. And we have to give them a really wide berth.
What about the analogy with Dr. King? Because people are bringing that up in conversation about this. We know, and it's not seriously denied by any of his biographers, that he was not a flawless husband. He had also some very questionable relationships, but this has not stopped people from feeling inspired by and honoring his message, if not every aspect of his character. Could the same exception be applied to Chavez? And if not, why not?
Why not? Because the circumstances are different. If you looked at a narrative where Robert Kennedy and Jack Kennedy, who were both bad husbands by all accounts, heroes of mine who were bad husbands, okay, even Bobby. And if you look at MLK, same thing. What's different here, Michael, is that Cesar Chavez is accused of raping children. Raping children. It's a different thing. It's a whole different thing, especially in the era of Epstein. And he's also accused of fathering children with his number 2, his second in command. So the charges are really disgusting, and I think they're going to be very hurtful for a long time to come.
Ruben Navarrete, you can read some of his most recent columns at our website at michaelmedved.com or go to navarretenation.substack.com. This story is just beginning. It is not going away, and we're not going away either. We'll be right back on The Medved Show.
Sign up today for our free weekly newsletter at michaelmedved.com.
LifeLock, how can I help? The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
And on the Michael Medved Show, if you are enjoying the conversations like the talk that I just had with Ruben Navarrete, you should just not listen to them. You should see them, too. Check out the Michael Medved official YouTube channel featuring full interviews with guests like Brett Stevens, Tom Nichols, Matt Bai, Matt Lewis, David Frum, and many, many more. Nick Kristof coming up, and Peter Baker coming up, and more. Just search Michael Medved Official on YouTube and hit subscribe. Michael Medved Official. We'd love to have you join us. Meanwhile, speaking of joining together, there is in Iran, the Israeli Air Force yesterday attacked an Iranian natural gas processing site, the first time Iranian natural gas facilities have been hit by the Israel Defense Forces. The U.S. confirmed that the strike had been carried out in coordination with U.S. forces. Israel also continued to attack Hezbollah targets in Lebanon on Wednesday, yesterday, targeting what it said were military sites and Hezbollah-owned businesses. Lebanon's health ministry said at least 12 people were killed and 41 were wounded by the strikes. Overnight on Wednesday, Hezbollah launched a wave of rockets into northern Israel, and there was an elderly couple that was killed in Israel by the Hezbollah rockets. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in the U.S. Congress, a transparency law passed by Congress forced the release of more Epstein files than ever before, but some lawmakers and victims are exploring new ways to push the Justice Department to discuss even more information from the voluminous trove that's being withheld. Okay, these numbers are staggering to even think of, but they're real. Roughly 2.5 million documents remain unreleased, while many of the 3.5 million pages made public already are heavily redacted, fueling questions about what's being kept from the public. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are considering new legislation, and they still want to depose Attorney General Pam Bondi under oath over her handling of the files. Bondi met privately with committee members yesterday, but Democrats walked out, citing her refusal to comply with a subpoena and to answer questions under oath. All of this is going on in the midst of war. And concerning war in Iran, one of the more silent members of the administration has been J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. He gave a speech in Auburn Hills, Michigan, the Detroit area, saying that Americans should take comfort because during the war, our allies are suffering more than we are. This is a weird tack to take. Here is the vice president, clip 25.
We actually worked with a lot of our allies all over the world who are suffering from this, frankly, more than we are, because unlike the United States, where we pursued an energy dominance agenda, you've got a lot of people all over the world who have focused on a lot of green energy scams, and they're hurting a lot more than we are. So as much as we got to focus on getting these gas prices down, the reality is overseas, they're feeling it far worse than we did because we've taken the steps to protect our energy economy. So, for example, what we did working with these allies, we released hundreds of millions of barrels out of all these petroleum reserves so that we could put some downward pressure on prices. We're working on a number of things. In fact, a couple of things that I think will be announced in just the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't want to get ahead of the president on that, but we recognize this is an issue. We are fighting against it, and we promise that when this conflict draws to a close, when this operation draws to a close, we're going to see those energy prices come back down to reality, because that's what the president promised to do.
Okay, a lot of people are listening to that and thinking that, wait a minute, this kind of promise that we're making, if it doesn't come true, and it very well may not, nobody knows what's happening with this war right now. And this clip that we just heard could be played in the midterms to discredit President Trump and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance actually took a few questions from reporters after his speech, and this in particular could provide fodder to the political enemies of the administration. This is clip 24.
What is the administration doing to help keep gas prices down, and where do you see gas prices going here in the near future?
Well, the President of the United States has been crystal clear about this. Look, gas prices are up, and we know they're up, and we know that people are hurting because of it, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that they stay lower. I will say, the president said this, and I certainly agree with it. This is a temporary blip. Okay, what happened under the Biden administration is the gas prices were high for 4 years. Gas prices are higher right now, and frankly, they're not even as high as they were during certain parts of the Biden administration because of what's going on in the Middle East. It's not going to last forever. We're going to take care of business. We're going to come back home, and when that happens, you're going to see energy prices come back down to reality. But in the meantime, we got a problem. We know that we have a problem. We're doing everything that we can to address it.
The idea that he keeps saying we're doing everything that we can to address it and recognizing that we have a problem, but that's not bad because our allies have a worse problem than we do. All of this is almost as if there is another war going on. On St. Patrick's Day, President Trump was celebrated just 2 days ago. On that big Irish national holiday. He celebrated by attacking one of his gravest enemies, he said. We will come up to that. There's also an explosion by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, as he would style himself, and he is furious at what he calls a dishonest and anti-Trump press. At a icy news conference rant. We will get to that as well. The difficulty right now is that the promises, the expectations that this war would be over, that we basically had destroyed the ability of Iran to damage us or to even damage our economy, this has not worked out. And the idea that they asked yesterday in hearings with Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, had she provided national intelligence to President Trump, warning him about the Straits of Hormuz and the vulnerability there and the long-term ability for the Iranians to damage the United States. Well, they had. And there is more leading to a sense that Tulsi Gabbard altered some of her oral testimony, leaving out some of the written testimony she had submitted before, in which it was clear that she had warned the president about the vulnerability of the Straits of Hormuz and more. We will get to that and the St. Patrick's Day surprise that Trump celebrated a couple of days ago with the Irish PM in the Oval Office. More coming up on the Medved Show.
With Venmo Stash, a toggle on one hand and ordering a ride in the other. means you're stacking cash back. With Venmo Stash, get up to 5% cash back when you pick a bundle of your favorite brands. Earn more cash when you do more with Stash. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms.
According to a lot of sources, the president appreciates the war that is going on right now, not just the war with Iran, but the war between his Secretary of War, as Pete Hegseth would like to call himself, between the Secretary of War and the American press. The fact that there is still a great deal of action between Pete Hegseth and the press, who he is accused of being traitors and disloyal and anti-American and lacking patriotism or commitment to the country. With all of that, he still continues to go through sessions with the press that apparently the president approves and enjoys. There was a reporter who confronted the Secretary of Defense, or if you prefer, the Secretary of War, this morning with an accusation of war crimes. Listen, this is clip 23.
Working alongside our partners, the president will look at what makes the most sense going forward. I appreciate that question. Yes, right here.
War crime, is that the policy of the U.S. military now?
I didn't.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Two questions for you. The vice president has often emphasized that the goal of this war is to denuclearize Iran.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
There was basically a walking away from the question, and that led to Pete Hegseth attacking what he calls the dishonest and anti-Trump press. This was in his news conference with a fairly emotional rant. Clip 22.
I stand here today speaking to you, the American people, not through filters, not through reporters, not through cable news spin. A dishonest and anti-Trump press will stop at nothing. We know this at this point. To downplay progress, amplify every cost, and call into question every step. Sadly, TDS is in their DNA. They want President Trump to fail. But you, the American people, know better. Yes, there are reporters in front of me, but they are not our audience today. It's you, the good, decent, patriotic American people. You, the hardworking, tax-paying, God-fearing American patriots.
Okay, in other words, what he is saying is that the press is not God-fearing, hardworking, tax-paying. Given the fact that there are members of the press and there are critics of this particular decision to go to war who are decorated veterans of the military services in the United States, where does he expect this is going to go? And basically accusing the press of being anti-American. Now, the president wasn't that far along, not with that kind of accusation on St. Patrick's Day. On St. Patrick's Day, President Trump celebrated the Green Holiday with the Irish Prime Minister in the Oval Office. And he spent the St. Patrick's Day by attacking some of his most grave enemies, Iran, Cuba, Nancy Pelosi, the New York Times, Shifty Schiff, as he calls him, Senator Schiff from California. He also did the famous weave, a war of words against his eternally evil enemy, windmills. Here was the President of the United States entertaining the Prime Minister of Ireland, not the President. The President of Ireland is a woman. But during his Churchillian speech, Donald Quixote also claimed that China makes windmills but doesn't use them. They use them as a weapon against the U.S.? Listen.
And I did it in a friendly way. I said, if you don't change your energy thing, you get away from windmills and go back to oil and gas. And, you have something that's no other country has. Very few countries have anything like it, the North Sea. You have some of the greatest oil and oil deposits in the entire world, the North Sea. They don't use it. You buy a lot of your oil from Norway. You know where they get their oil? From the North Sea. And you pay a very big price. So why are you paying a lot of money? And I tell them, you have the better part of the North Sea. So why aren't they taking the oil from the North Sea? Why are they buying oil from Norway? But they have windmills all over the country destroying those gorgeous Scottish fields and those beautiful fields all over the windmills, which don't work. They're tremendously expensive. And the best testament to that is the windmills are made in China, but China doesn't use them. You know what China uses? Coal. They're building 58 coal-fired plants right now, and that's up to them. But these foolish countries that are buying windmills, putting them out of business, I'm proudly telling you that we're going to try and have no windmills built in the United States during my...
Okay, by the way, yes, China is the world leader in wind energy, possessing the largest installed wind power capacity globally by a large margin. And as of 2024, wind is China's third largest electricity source, with massive onshore and offshore wind farms contributing significantly to their renewable energy and to their renewable energy growth. And all of this comes up to, it's not a lie that President Trump is telling, but it's a riddle. Why is he so obsessed with the negativity toward wind energy? And part of the story, at least according to some writers about President Trump, has to do with the golf club that he built and operates in Scotland. And he was put a lot of money into it. He put a lot of effort into it. He's very proud of it. He goes there periodically. But he was upset because he was unable to stop the installation of some windmills that he felt ruined the view for his golf club. Now, does that make sense? It makes as much sense as anything. Meanwhile, CNN is reporting that the Federal Reserve, which yesterday kept interest rates unchanged as investors and policymakers braced for the economic fallout from the war, Fed officials held the benchmark rate at 3.5% to 3.75%. After cutting it 3 times last year amid a softening labor market. But the escalating conflict in the Middle East, this according to CNN, has added new uncertainty, with officials signaling caution as they assess its potential impact on prices. The Fed now faces a delicate balancing act amid the twin threats of higher inflation and a job market still on shaky footing. Coming up, according to the latest edition of the World Happiness Report, the 3 happiest countries in the world are, well, not the U.S. The U.S. ranks 23rd happiest. Not Iran. Iran is 97th happiest. In last place, Afghanistan, alas, at number 147, preceded by Sierra Leone. Who are the top 5 coming up? And what do those top 10 have dramatically in common? We will get to that and more about America's pushing for a new war regarding Cuba and the takeover of Cuba. And Joe Kent, who had just resigned because of his opposition to this war, he did a press conference about why he was leaving the administration. Clips coming up in This Greatest Nation on God's Green Earth.